First of all, you write marking and measuring tools. Marking and measuring tools. Like fitting shop, there are marking and measuring tools. So under this category, you write the same thing. You write steel rule, steel rule, which is a 1 foot long, that is 25 centimeter long measuring tool with which we measure the. Uh, yeah, with that, just a second, just a second. Yeah. So that steel rule is used in carpentry also, but along with it, there is a another measuring unit which is known as tape, steel tape. Steel tape is another one which is also used for measuring and marking, which is a longer one. A steel tape is about 60 centimeter. That means, uh, 60 centimeter long steel tape is used, which is a flexible one, metal tape. And the narrow one, half-inch wide. It's a long one, 60 centimeter. And there is a small box with a spring inside. So you can pull it out. And when your job is done, you just release it. It will go back to its covering automatically. That is a tape which is graduated in millimeter and centimeter in one side, and in other side inches. The inch measurement is also there, and for larger measurement, and in case the steel tape is a flexible one. So if there is a requirement of measuring curved surface, curved area or curved figure, then it can be used because it is a flexible one, steel one. So you can bend it and take the measurement also. So this is flexible measuring rule. You can say it is a flexible measuring rule or tape. Okay, for carved and angular, for measurement or measuring carved and angular surfaces. So that is the other measuring one, tape. And then the next item is tri-square. The tri-square is a unit, is a tool which is also used in fitting shop. Here also you use a tri-square, and you know how, why, I mean, what is the application? The tri-square is used to measure 90-degree for marking and testing angles of 90-degree. And as usual, it has a blade and a base. And the steel blade is thinner, and the base or the stock, sometimes it is called the stock, it is thicker. And the stock sometimes, in case of carpentry, the stock sometimes is made of wood, but it can be metal also. So it is similar to the fitting shop tri-square. Next item is bevel square under measuring and marking. Bevel, bevel. Bevel square is It is like a tri-square for measuring angles and all, but there is a flexibility. The blade can be slided on the base, I mean on the stock, and the angle which is fixed in case of tri-square 90 degree, this angle can be increased to 180 degree. That means the blade can be swung. There is a hinge point on the base from where we can rotate the blade and the angle can be increased. Suppose you want to measure 135 degree or 160 degree or 150 degree or 120 degree, this can be possible with bevel square, which is not possible with a tri-square because tri-square is a fixed angled item. So that is bevel square. And the next one, this in the measuring marking category, there is one more item called marking gauge. Marking gauge, GAUGE, marking gauge, where we'll show you in the video the marking gauge. There is one pin attached to a handle, a rod, and a block of wood. This is wooden item, the marking gauge. That pin, when you scratch, I mean, help you, that marking gauge help you to leave a scratch on the wood part with the help of that pin. So this scratch will give you the marking. So how it is done and how it looks like, you will be seeing in the video. So that is a marking gauge. Okay. And two items can be used, like which are used in fitting shop, like divider, like calipers, like inside caliper, outside caliper. These are also required in measurement part of carpentry. And the last one which I want to say is a spirit level, an item which is known as spirit level. Spirit level is a rectangular box type, narrow, uh, long means about say 6 to 8 inches long, and so 1.5 inch wide. So it's a box type, rectangular box type, where one of the side is transparent. That means you can see inside, and inside there is certain liquid. It is filled with. It is inside is a hollow. It's filled with liquid. It's filled with, basically it's filled with spirit. So that is a liquid, and it is used to see the level of the surface you are working. How? That liquid contains one bubble, a big bubble of air inside. So when you keep it on a surface with the transparent side up, keeping the transparent side up, if you keep it on a table, say a table, you are just keep that spirit level on the table. So you can see the liquid inside through the transparent part, and that bubble will move according to the level of the surface on which you have kept. If you have kept it on the table, if the table is perfectly horizontal, then the bubble will be at the middle of the spirit level, that unit. But if it is tilted, suppose left side is little down and right side is little high, the bubble will move towards the higher side. Why? Because bubble means air, which is lesser density, so it will move towards upper side. That means if the right side is high, the bubble will move towards the right side. So you will understand that the level is not perfectly horizontal. The right side is high. Similarly, if the reverse is true, then it will move to the left side, that bubble. So seeing that bubble, the person who do this carpentry work and all, they understand that whether the level is horizontal or not. So this is a very common item also. You will find it with a common carpenter sometime when they make furniture, partitions, etc. They carry that spirit level to find out the horizontality of the surface, any surface, wherever you keep it. Even if you can keep it on your floor, you will understand whether the floor is perfectly horizontal or not. So that is a spirit level which is used by the carpenters. So this includes, there could be one, two more items. I'm not going into those detail, but these are sufficient for you to know whatever I have said, four, five items in the uh, marking and measuring part. Then you go for the cutting tool. Next item, next category is the cutting tool. In the cutting tool category, the first comes the saws. SAW, saw, you have seen one saw in fitting shop. That, what is, uh, Marmik, what is the name of that saw? What you have seen in the fitting shop?
Hacksaw.
Hacksaw, correct. You have used it in the fitting shop, which is known as hacksaw, where the blade is very uh, uh, less wide, it is half-inch wide, and it's a long type of blade, thin one, which is fitted in a handle and a frame. So that is a hacksaw, and that is used to cut metals. But here in carpentry, you have different types of saws, but I will be telling you about two, three types of saws which are mostly used. The most uh, mostly used saws in the carpentry sections, they consist of a blade and a handle. So there is no frame separately. There is a blade which is comparatively wider and a wooden handle which is held by the person who uses the saw, and the saw is used to cut wood particles, and you also know that wood is comparatively softer than the metal, and the blades of the saws are having, on one side of the blade there are the teeth, and the other side is flat, and that is fitted with a handle, wooden handle, and that handle is held by the hand, and then you move it forward and backward, and the teeth which are being rubbed against the wood piece take away fine wood particles, and the wood is cut. And I hope many of you have already seen the saws with the carpenters. Now there are division in the saws. You write down, out of the saws which are used, the name of two, three types of saws. First of all, you write number one, rip saw, RIP, rip saws. The rip saws, you write, against rip saw, you write, rip saws are used to uh, take out take out heavier heavier uh, wood material, heavier wood material, and are used for rough cutting and are used for rough cutting. So if you have to cut a big piece, if you have to take out a big bulk of wood, then you use a rip saw. The rip saw is used for rough cutting, and you write down the basic size of it. The rip saws are about 700 millimeter long, 700, 700 millimeter long, and the teeth, in one part of the blade there is the teeth. The teeth are in bigger size, bigger teeth, which is which are the teeth are 3 to 5, 3 to 5 teeth per 25 millimeter. There will be 3 to 5 teeth per 25 millimeter. 25 millimeter means 1 inch. Just hold on for a second. Just hold on for a second. Yeah, sorry. So it is rip saw, which is used for rough cutting, and the teeth per inch is about 3 to 5. The number of teeth per 25 millimeter or an inch. 25 millimeter is 25.4 millimeter is equal to 1 inch. Right. That is a rip saw, which can be seen in frequently used by the carpenters, the normal carpenters. Then you come to the next one, which is called cross cut saw. Cross cut, CROSS, cross cut saw. The cross cut saws are also known as hand saw. Those are also known as hand saw, common saw. But they comes under the category of this type, rip saw type. All right. It is little smaller in size compared to rip saw, but it is also used for general cutting or rough cutting. This cross cut saw, and the length of the cross cut saw is around 600 millimeter, 600. The length of the saw. Length of the saw means the length of the blade. Remember, in case the length is to be seen, it is the blade. So it is 600 millimeter in length, and the number of teeth are little more. That means the size of teeth is little smaller than rip saw. So the number of teeth per 25 millimeter length is 8 to 10. So you can get 8 to 10 teeth per 25 millimeter or 1 inch. This is also used for the same purpose, but comparatively smaller amount of material removed with crosscut saw when you compare with rip saw. So it is a smaller type of rib saw. So these two saws are used for rough cutting and general purpose. Then comes the tenon saw. Third, Tenon, tenon. Tenon saw is mostly used for finer and more accurate cut. So tenon saws are used for finer cutting and accurate cutting. That means where you need to have accurate finish, where you need to have small depth of cut, small cut of, some small piece of wood to be removed, but a fine cut is required. That means the finishing part, you use this tenon saw. Okay, the blade, the blade of the saw is very thin to have finer cut. So the blades are very thin, and the length of the saws are maximum up to 400 millimeters. The length of this blade of the saw, the maximum up to 400 millimeter, and the number of teeth per 25 millimeter length of the blade, the number of teeth can go up to 13, 12, 13 teeth per inch or per 25 millimeter. So you can understand that if per 25 millimeter, if there are 13 teeth or 12 teeth, that means the teeth are very small but sharp, sharp and small teeth, which is used for finer cutting, okay, or accurate cutting. So that is our tenon saw, which are used for finer cutting. Now there is a big difference between the shape of rib saw and tenon saw. Let me tell you that the rib saw blade is not a rectangular in not rectangular in size. The rib saw or the crosscut saw, both, the blades are narrowed down towards the other end. That means the width of the blade near the handle is bigger, and when it goes to the other part, that is the tip of the blade, tip of the saw, it is reduced to some extent. So it is not a rectangular blade. And I hope you have seen this rib saw. I mean, each of you have seen with the carpenters. Have you? Can you
Yes,
confirm?
sir.
Yes. The rib saws are that which are wide near the handle and then narrowed down to some extent towards the tip of it, the other end. But tenon saw are perfectly rectangular. Whatever is the width of the blade with the handle, at the end of the blade, the same width follows. It's a perfectly rectangular saw. And there is a, in one side of the blade, there are teeth, and the other side of the blade, which is on the upper part, when you use a rib saw, then the upper part of the blade is covered with a metal piece. Why? Because the blade is very thin. I have already told you. To deliver a fine cut, accurate cut, there is a cover on top of the blade, a small metal piece like a rib on top of it. You will be shown when I show you the video, you will see it clearly. So that part is there on top, which is known as, that part is known as the tenon part of the saw. So that is the difference between the formation. So the tenon part or an excess metal sheet is there because the sheet is very thin to keep it in order. I mean, so that it moves forward and backward easily. That top cover is given, a small top cover, not white. When you see, you will understand. So that part is known as tenon part, and the saw is known as tenon saw. That is also carried by the carpenters for accurate coverage, particularly when they make furniture, etc., where some accuracy is required. Tenon saws are used. Tenon saw, you can write tenon saw has another form which is called dovetail saw. Dovetail, Dovetail. That is another form of tenon saw. That's all. These are the varieties of saw. There are a few more, but you don't have to go to that detail. These are the mostly widely used saws which I have seen. And if you are asked that what is the mostly used, widely used saws, the first two names are one rib saw, another is tenon saw. These two. Then we come to the chisels. The third type of items which are used for cutting operation are chisels. And the chisels, there are mainly two types of chisels. And the chisels are not like the fitting shop, because fitting shop chisels are very thick, strong one. Because with that chisel you have to remove metal. But here, since wood is a softer material, the chisels which are used have blades which are thinner. The main two category of blades are, I mean, the names of two category of chisels are farmer chisel, number one, farmer, Firmer, farmer. Farmer chisel, the farmer chisel has a, it is most general purpose chisel is the farmer chisel. Uh, the width of the blade, the width of the blade varies maximum. I mean, the width can be maximum up to 2 inches of the farmer chisel. It can be lesser also. The width of the blade, and at the end of the blade there is a wooden handle, which was not there in case of fitting shop. Here in carpentry, the chisel, you will be shown also, this chisel has a wooden handle with which it is held, and the chisel is striked. That means the impact is given with a hammer, but that hammer is not a metal, will not have a metal head. The hammer with which the chisels are striked, you have to strike the chisel. You have to fix the blade, edge of the blade at a place where you have to take out wood chips, and you should strike it with a hammer on the wooden handle part, the head of the wooden handle. But the wooden handle of the hammer, in case of striking a chisel in the carpentry part, the head of the handle, head of the hammer is also made from wood. That means a wooden hammer. The handle is made from wood, and the head is also made from wood. And the head is having a rectangular cross section, a big head compared to the handle. You will be shown, and that is known as, that wooden handle is known as a, it has a different name. It is called a mallet. Mallet, mallet. You will see it. The mallet is the wooden handle, wooden hammer, with which the chisels are struck to take out chips of material, chips of wood. Okay. So one type is the firmer chisel, and the other type of the chisel is known as mortise chisel. Mortise. 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 Chisel is the name. The difference is the mortise chisel, the blade of the mortise chisel is not that wide like farmer chisel, but the thickness is more of the mortise chisel. And the purpose, what is the purpose? The purpose is to take out thicker chips of wood. That means with the help of mortise chisel, you take out thicker chips of wood, and with the help of firmer chisel, you take out thinner chips of wood. So mortise chisel have higher thickness, and firmer chisel has lesser. The thickness is less, and these two have little bit of variation. You don't have to go for that. Only you know that firmer chisel is having a thin blade, which is about maximum up to 2 inches wide, and the blade is comparatively thinner and are mostly used. It's a general purpose chisel, and chisels are used to take out chips of wood, I mean part of the wood in the form of chips with the blade and a mallet. And when the heavier work is used, I mean heavier uh, part of wood is to be removed, then mortise chisel is used. Okay, so these are the
Sir,
two. Yes,
sir, your audio is unclear.
but I cannot help, my dear. It is showing clear. Is it with all other? Renita, can you hear me? Mamik,
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Look clear.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
then what has happened with? Are you Anushrita saying
Yes, sir, your voice was a
now?
bit unclear before, so I said. Sir, now it's okay.
Then probably, I mean, the problem was with your area network or something like that, because others can hear me clearly. Is it clear
Oh,
now,
okay, sir.
Anushrita? No?
Yes, sir, now it's better. Before it was very unclear.
Yeah.
Oh,
ठीक
sorry,
है.
sir. Then it may be the problem from my end.
Maybe, but it's all right. I mean, it happens with this network system. It happens. So that is those are the cutting tools used for carpentry. The third one is the planing tool. The planing tool is uh, to plane. The name says it is to plane or smoothen the surface of an wood piece. Okay, it has a base which can be a wooden block or a metal block. On it, there are at an angle, the blades are fitted. There is a handle. This will be shown to you also. And I think we can show it. I mean, we will have to show the video in the second half. But let me tell you the names first. The the instrument with which the planing is done, planing of wood piece is done, is known as is also known as a plane. It is called a jack plane. Jack, jack plane. The jack plane can be a wooden, having a wooden block, or a metal block. That means the base of the jack plane can be wooden or it can be metallic. Both. In case of metal, it is known as metal jack plane. And for the wooden part, we don't name it separately wooden, it is ordinary jack plane. So one is jack plane, one is metal jack plane. Purpose is the same, to take away thin, very thin chips from the surface of the wood, and the operation is known as planing. You have to plane the surface. And I hope many of you have, I think almost all of you have seen that while a jack plane is moved on the surface, very fine chips of wood comes out and rolls out. It takes a coil shape of thin wooden layer. Have you seen the
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
jack
sir.
plane? Yes, yes. So when it is made from wooden block, the lower part, that is the base of it, it is jack plane. When it is made from a metal piece, it is metal jack plane. Okay, and the base, which is moved forward and backward, in case of metal jack plane rather, is known as a sole, S-O-L-E, sole. The body, the lower part, the the lower surface, the lowest surface, which actually comes in contact with the wood, is known as a sole, S-O-L-E, sole. And you will be shown it later on. So this is the planing tool. And then comes, what did I say? The next point, striking, striking tool. Striking tool is hammer, of course, hammer. And the hammer, which I have already mentioned, is the wooden hammer, comes under this category of striking tool. And the wooden hammer is known as a mallet. I have told you. The mallet will be shown to you in the video. And the wooden hammer it is made from wood, particularly so that the blows which a mallet gives to the chisels should not be very high. That means the impact must not be very high. And for that purpose, the metal is replaced and a wood piece is used as the head of the hammer. But apart from this, there can be other type of hammer. You write down the names. It can be the same ball peen hammer which is used in fitting shop, ball peen hammer. Or there is another category of hammer which is used in carpentry, is known as claw hammer. Claw, C-L-A-W, claw hammer. Claw hammer means the head, which is a metal head. In case of claw hammer, it is also metal head. The claw, there is the other part, one part is flat for heating of the head, One part of the head is flat for hitting like ball pen hammer, and the other part the, of the head is bifurcated. That means there is a gap in the middle. There are two, uh, it is cut into two pieces. That means the having a gap in between.
So you
Why?
used to take out screws.
Right. Not the screws, basically, the nails. Nails and also screws, because screws can be taken out by screwdrivers. But the nails, once the nails, you know that nails are used for fixing one piece of wood with another, that you have also seen. But in case there is a repairing is required, or the wood pieces are to be detached for certain purpose, then the nails have heads, like screws have heads. So these claw hammers are used in that case, that the gap between the two metal piece where the head is fixed. I mean, it is the head is held within that narrow cut, and there is a pull. If you pull it, the pin or the screw or the nail will come out from the wood. It is for withdrawing or taking out nails, screws, etc. from the wood pieces, from which is already. Suppose you are nailing, and the nailing process is wrong. I mean, it has gone. I mean, in some other direction, it has moved. So you have to immediately pull it out and then again fix it with another nail. So pulling out is done with the claw hammer. That is the third type of hammer. So mallet, ball peen hammer, and claw hammer. These are the striking tools used in carpentry. Next is holding tools. Holding tools is very much like cutting shop. That is the bench vise. Bench vices are used for also for carpentry work, for holding the job, because you have to hold it. But there is one modification in it, that the two jaws, which you know that in bench wise there is one jaw is fixed, one jaw is movable. Here also it is true in case of carpentry, but the inside part of the jaws in case of uh, carpentry, there is a thin piece of wood is attached. That means the inside of the jaws are covered with a wooden piece. What is the consequence? Why it is done? When a wood piece is held, that wood piece comes in contact with those two wood pieces, not the metal part of the jaws. Why it is done? Because if you hold a wood piece with the metal jaws and tighten it, metal being much harder than wood, it may make an impression, or it may sometimes crack the wood. So to avoid that, two wood pieces are attached with the two jaws, inside part I am talking about, inside of the jaws, so that when you hold a wood piece, it will come in contact with those wood pieces only. But the purpose is the same. The two jaws will come together and will hold the wood piece like that. So that is a bench vise. You may call it a bench vise with uh, wooden shield or wooden cover. And there are different types of bench vices. You don't have to go for the detail. Only you know that the bench vise is used for as holding tool in the carpentry area, and there are few more uh, items which are also used for holding. Like one is, you just write down the names. One is G cramp. G means letter G. G for Ganga. G, then cramp. CRAMP, cramp. G cramp. It is it is like a frame and a screw. Like the frame looks like a G, English letter G. The frame looks like. So the name has come from there. G. G cramp means with that type of, it's a clumping system. So that G cramp is, the usage is very limited for small pieces of woodwork or the very finer part of small pieces of woodwork. These G clamps are used, and not for general purpose of carpentry. For general purpose of carpentry, you use always a bench vise. All right. There can be hand screw also. Another type of holding device is called hand screw. But these are not very important. The important is the bench vise, which I have already told you. Now, the last part of this uh, carpentry tools, there are few miscellaneous type of tools, which are miscellaneous, like different tools. You write down the names. Number one, these are miscellaneous types. Apart from, I have already told you, uh, measuring marking tools, then cutting tools, then holding tools, then striking tools. Those are the categories. The now the category is mixed one. The different types of tools. I'll tell you few tools which are often used by carpenters or the carpentry section, and they can come under miscellaneous tool. Out of it, the number one is a file. You have seen that in fitting shop there are various types of files used, right? From the single cut, double cut, up to the, that according to cross section, rectangular, triangular, these, that. You have also written in the exam, in the assignment. So here in carpentry, one type of file is used. One type. And that is used at the end of the work if there is a narrow space where actually smoothing of wood is done with the planing tool, the plane, jack plane. I have already told you. But there are certain areas where jack plane cannot enter because jack plane is bit wide. So a small space, a small place, or small surface of wood, you need to clean after chiseling and all. But there is no access for jack plane. There you use this file. This file is known as rasp cut file. RASP, rasp. Sometimes it is called rasp file, but it is better to say rasp cut file. Rasp cut means it is like a file in the fitting shop with a wooden handle and a metal blade. And the cutting teeth, in case of the fitting shop files, you have seen the lines. Several parallel lines were there for the cutting operation, which when rubbed against the metal takes out material. But here, there are the cutting lines are not there, but the cutting points are there. There are numerous small cutting points on the surface of the file. So when you rub it against the wood, then again same thing takes place. That means small pieces of wood particles comes out and makes it a flat one, flat surface. You will be shown also this rasp cut file. Okay, so that is file. Then you have screwdriver. This is another item comes under miscellaneous. Screwdrivers with which the screws are driven in. Also, screws can be withdrawn. On the screw, you know there is a head of the screw which has a line on top. Half of I mean in the center of the head there is a line where the screwdriver part, the blade part is fitted and you rotate it. The screwdriver, while you are fixing it into an wood piece, if you want to fix a screw inside a wood piece, then you hold the screw with the screwdriver and rotate it clockwise. It will enter into the wood piece because there is a thread on the body of the screw, a spiral thread. And when you rotate with the screwdriver clockwise, it will go inside. But because it has taken a specific path, if you put the screwdriver on the head and turn it anti-clockwise, rotate it anti-clockwise, it will slowly come out. So for the operation, fixing, removing screws, you can use screwdriver. That is one tool which is also used in carpentry, and you can have it under this miscellaneous tool. Okay. There is a pincer, P-I-N-C-R, pincer. Pincer is also a tool used for pulling out nails, like you do with the claw hammer. With the pincer also, it is like a plier. So you hold the head and pull it out. So Pincer, pincer. Pincer is another type of tool which is used to take out nails. So we have discussed uh, the major and important tools which are required for carpentry work, and they come under marking, measuring tools, then cutting tools, then planing tool, then chiseling. Chiseling comes under, of course, cutting. Acha, one more tool there is, I have not told you, that is boring tool. Boring, B-O-R-I-N-G, boring tool, which comes under miscellaneous process. What is boring? Boring is nothing but making a hole. You know that. Can you tell me, one of you, for metal section, if we want to make a hole, which operation we do in metal section, which tool we use or which machine we use?
Drill machine.
Yeah,
Drill machine.
who is answering this? Aditya.
Yes, sir.
Yes, it is drill machine. Right, you are. We use a drill machine to make a hole. Similarly, in case of woodwork, if we want to make a hole, it's a long one or a bigger diameter, we can use, of course, we can use a drill machine. But for smaller holes, and if the depth of the holes are not very high, very long, then we call it not drilling, we call it boring. Boring is making a small hole in the wood piece. B-O-R-I-N-G, boring. And we use one or two tools to do it manually. We do not need a machine. There is a handle and there is a metal piece. At the end of that metal, cylindrical metal piece, narrow, and the top of which is like a drill bit, having the cutting teeth in a spiral condition, like a drill bit, just like a drill bit. But we can operate it with our hand. Manually, we can rotate it with a little pressure, and because wood is softer, we can have a hole. So the boring tool in that case is known as a gimlet, Gimlet. 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 And another is Bradawll, Bradawll, Bradawll. The operation is the same. I mean, the function is the same, to make a hole. But remember, with this gimlet or Bradawll, we can have small hole and with a small depth. But if you have to go for removal of higher amount of wood particles, a long hole or a big diameter of hole is required, we have to go for again drilling operation. But for smaller operations, we can have this boring. This is called boring, B-O-R-I-N-G, boring. Boring operation, we can use gimlet or Bradawll and do the small hole making operation. So this is all more or less about the tools. So what we will be doing, most of these tools which I have discussed with you right now will be there in the video, and we will show you that how a piece of wood which is provided to you. Suppose you are in a workshop, you are provided with a piece of wood, which is a long piece of wood. So what are the steps you have to do? You have to plane it first, then you have to measure it, then you have to cut it into two pieces with a saw, and the first cut will be a rough cut, that will be with the rib saw. Then you again mark it according to the requirement of drawing, and the marking can be done with a Acha, in the case of marking, I have forgotten one thing. Can you tell me, marking and measuring, I have told you that those uh, marking gauge, tri-square, bevel square, etc.
Yes, sir.
But can you tell me from your point, I want to know, rather, have you seen the carpenters working, and while they are marking, they use a certain item which is actually not a carpentry item. That is a very, very common item which they use for marking. They draw lines with that.
Sir, parallel lines.
But with which
Sir,
item they do?
pencil.
Who said that pencil?
Sir, me, Soman.
Soman Digar, you are absolutely correct. Pencil is a very common tool which is used by the carpenters because it is handy, because it gives a clear view. Now, pencils cannot be used in fitting shop because pencil marking on metal is not visible. But on wood pieces, if you mark with a lead pencil, normal pencils, you will have a very clear marking line. You can use that marking line for next operations like sawing, chiseling, etc. So pencil is, though it is not written in the book, but pencil is a very common tool, an item which is used by the majority, most of the, I think almost all carpenters to do marking. So that is what I just forgot to tell you while I cross the marking part, marking and measuring. Pencils are used by the carpenters. You can use marking gauge where there is a pin and there will be a line drawn with a pin. That is also a marking tool. But pencils are also used. So what I was saying, this processes of marking, sawing, planing, chiseling, boring, this we have discussed, and these will be shown in the video one by one, and I will, as usual, I will pause the video and explain to you the operation, and you will see one before that, before the class 2:30 class, you just go through that thing, uh, the joints, the figures are given in your WhatsApp group, and you find out halving joint, cross halving joint. That joint will be, we will be showing you. Cross halving joint. You will find one figure of that in that drawing given in the WhatsApp group. You just have a look of it. How it looks, then we will make one cross halving joint and show you. All right. So for now, it's okay. You can go for your break, and then but this joint you must see before you join the class, because we will be showing that. Let me take the attendance quick. Yours is AIML. Renita, are you there?
Yes.
You are coughing. Got cold or what?
A little.
A bit of. Okay, Renita, you are present.
Yes.
Orgodip, Pani,
Present, sir.
Orgodip, Pani present. Anindo Ghosh. Anindo Ghosh, absent. Okay. Anindo Ghosh, absent. Aishi Kundu,
Yes, sir. Present, sir.
Atul Raj,
Present, sir.
Marmik, present.
Present, sir.
Shihab,
Yes, sir.
Raj Singh. Raj Singh, are you present? No. Raj Singh is absent. Who is writing? Raj Singh. Apurva Jha. ठीक है, Apurva Jha, I've not called your name yet. Don't worry. Shubhronil. Shubhronil, absent. Niladri Ranjan,
Present, sir.
Aditya Banerjee,
Present, sir.
Aindrila,
Yes, sir.
Avirup,
Present, sir.
okay. Shorik,
Present, sir.
Prince, absent. Shomi, Shamanto,
Sir, Prince told that he has gone for the vaccine.
oh, I'm sorry, yes. I told Prince. Yeah, Prince is present, right?